I'm now joined in the studio by Faisal Abbas, the chief editor of Arab News. An absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming into the studio. So the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, has really heavily criticised the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, for saying that they are willing to recognise a Palestinian state if a ceasefire deal isn't achieved in September. Do you agree with the notion of Benjamin Netanyahu that he is rewarding Hamas, the British Prime Minister?
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be with you, Leigh-Ann, and thank you for that very important question. And I take this opportunity to remind your viewers and everybody watching of a very important fact. It is very audacious of Benjamin Netanyahu to make such statements about the Right Honourable Keir Starmer, given that Hamas is a designated terrorist organization in Israel. It's a terrorist organization in many countries around the world, including many Arab countries. Many Arabs dislike Hamas and are completely opposed to it. And this is what the part that I wanted to refer to. Hamas's biggest enabler for the past 16 years has been Benjamin Netanyahu. And those are not my words. Those are the words of the senior political correspondent of the Times of Israel, Tal Schneider, who wrote an article on the 8th of October, a day after the atrocious terror attacks on Israel, saying for years Netanyahu propped up Hamas and now it has blown up in our face. And the argument here, if I may add, is that it was strategy deployed by the consecutive Israeli governments that Benjamin Netanyahu led to discredit the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, where Hamas does not exist, and empower Hamas in Gaza for several reasons. Creating divisions between the Palestinians so that Israel can always say, we don't have a partner to negotiate with, Palestinians can get along, giving the Palestinian resistance an unacceptable face worldwide and empowering that face, and continuously annexing land and continuing with the violations that Israeli are clearly continuing to do till this day.
So obviously, I just want to give the side of what Israel would say back to you, and they would say back that they're protecting their sovereignty of their country. You know, they're on the border with Palestine, and Hamas are threatening Israel. And Lebanon, we have Hezbollah. Of course, we also have the Houthis in Yemen. So that would be the argument of Israel, that they're protecting themselves. And we do know that because I have spoken to the IDF. But really, you know, hostages are still in captivity and Hamas are still running Gaza. So my big question to you is, where does this all end? What happens next? And do you think that it's likely that we'll see a ceasefire deal now that the UK is putting pressure, and France, to say we're going to recognise a Palestinian state if these ceasefire agreements are not actually reached or agreed upon?
No, again, thank you for that question, but allow me to flip the argument there. It's not like Israel suddenly woke up and realized Hamas is a monster. They knew that from day one when they decided, when Benjamin Netanyahu's consecutive government over 16 years decided to go in bed with Hamas, to deliver money to them on monthly basis, to empower them, to make them look more credible in front of the Palestinians, to create divisions between them and the Palestinian Authority so that there is no unified Palestinian front. They knew that all along, and they knew exactly who they were getting into bed with. So I am surprised that they are surprised with the outcome that happened on 7th October. What were you expecting? We all know Hamas's agenda and Hamas's ideology. Now, having said that, what Israel is doing in the West Bank in terms of annexation and what it's doing in Gaza in terms of the genocide, in terms of using food and water and power as a weapon, is a clear violation of international law, and it needs to stop. Now, whether or not the Israeli government responds to the thinly veiled threats by Keir Starmer and others, whether that impacts them, I don't know. But the fact is, this has dragged on for too long, and the world now needs to act unilaterally, because waiting for Israel to do the right thing, especially with this right-wing government, is next to impossible. So the only solution now is for the world to follow in the footsteps of France and do the right, honorable thing.
So we talk about this and we talk about pressure on Israel, and that's what we have to do now, and people to follow in the footsteps of France and the UK in recognising a Palestinian state if it gets to that situation in September. But a lot of people are saying it's the US that needs to pressure Israel. Is this the only country that can really make a difference? And is the West doing enough for the Palestinian people and the people in Gaza? Because we know people are starving to death, they're malnourished, there's not enough aid going in. The UN have said this, the World Food Programme. You know, where is the end to this? Is this down to Donald Trump in the US to have a serious conversation with Benjamin Netanyahu?
So allow me to unpack that. There's two questions regarding the West and regarding Trump and the United States. Regarding the West, I would say too little, too late, but at the same time, better late than never. I don't want to be negative about this. What has happened over the past few days is extremely important. France's position, Britain's position, although I would have liked them to go all in and recognize Palestine and correct.
That's just what the Fatah Secretary General was saying to me, saying they're disappointed they haven't gone all in, and he hopes they don't roll back when September comes around because of pressure from Israel.
No, absolutely. But given the internal pressure within the UK as well, and this is a golden opportunity for the United Kingdom to correct a historical wrong with the Balfour Declaration. I think they're on the they're taking the right steps on the right way, and for that they should be applauded. This is why I said, on one hand, better late than never, and on the other hand, too little, too late. Of course, there are countries that have been at the forefront of this, such as Spain and Ireland, and we thank them for their honorable position with standing with what's right. At the end of the day, nobody wants blood on their hand, and nobody will accept a genocide. Nobody will accept displacement or people dying out of hunger in Gaza. Now, with regards to the United States, yes, the United States has incredible leverage over Israel. I don't think Biden could have pulled it, but if there is one man in the world today that has the leverage and the ability to convince anybody, by the way, he is a master salesperson. I'm talking
master negotiator.
Master negotiating. Many might not agree, but I think he genuinely wants peace. He wants that legacy, and he doesn't want it happening on his watch. Now, what rabbits can he pull out of the hat? What tricks can he do? I don't know. However, what is definitely certain that if there is one man in the world that has the ability to convince Netanyahu to do the right thing, and the country that has leverage is the United States. We've seen, despite all the criticisms, and I'm very aware of them, but we've seen Trump negotiate between Pakistan and India successfully, recently between Cambodia and Thailand successfully, and he's putting a lot of his political weight and leverage in trying to resolve this conflict.
And I guess if we also think about it, it's Israel and Iran who also helped negotiate that ceasefire there. But thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you and coming in. That was a fascinating insights. Thank you so much. Faisal Abbas, the chief editor of Arab News. Once again, have a great evening. Thank you.